Okay, and our third and last speaker for this panel session is Mr. Timothy Su, the Senior Sales and Marketing Manager, Asia at Contiki Holidays, Singapore, who will explore broadening career opportunities in digital marketing. He completed the award-winning course Squared Online, developed by Google on digital marketing, and he finished the program with distinction in the year 2017. He served as panel for the top-performing Southeast Asia sales rep from Google Channel Partners at Google's APAC campus. He's a marketing strategist with more than 10 years of experience in business-to-business and business-to-consumer experience in the travel industry. His skills are actually very broad and very wide range and very extensive in the areas of digital marketing. His expertise includes content management, e-commerce development and analysis, email marketing, and social media management. Apart from digital marketing, he provides expertise in the areas of relationship management, strategic campaign development and management, brand management and public relations, event management, product management and development, and retail management. So Mr. Su, kindly stand up to be recognized by our audience.
Hi, afternoon everyone. So the speakers before me have set a very high bar, but I think there's a theme that goes along these topics, and I think the biggest thing, if you forget the rest of my 10 minutes, is to always ask why. Okay? As I go into my presentation, I'll share to ask why. All right, so I am Tim, Timothy, or Tim for short, and I represent Contiki in Asia. Okay, we are a travel business for 18 to 35, and we provide travel experiences for this audience. So the millennial audience who doesn't know about cassette tapes, videotapes, everything Spotify, Instagram. I mean, I will normally ask people if they use Instagram, but for an audience like this, I will ask who doesn't use Instagram, and I probably see 2 hands or something like that. So, for my presentation today, I'll cover just a couple of topics. The first one is just to give you an overview of the current travel agency industry, okay? And what are some of the typical roles, which you should be familiar with already, so I'll skim through that quite fast. And to share with you a little bit about the future of travel agency industry and what some of the jobs are, okay? It's also very timely, as I was sharing with some of the speakers, because 2 months ago I just had something similar in Singapore with the Travel Association for Youth Committee. So some of these statistics were taken from there, as fresh as May this year. So these are just some statistics gleaned off Singapore and Philippines. In Singapore, which is a small country, we've got 1,200 travel agents. Very competitive. And as what Andy and Miss Aline said earlier, if you don't innovate, if you're just going to take orders, the robot will take over you. And then that's the end of your job. But if you ask why, if you ask how can you challenge that? How can you humanize? How can you provide a better experience? You get your repeat customer service. It's the same in Philippines. There are over 500 licensed members, of which even more the retail stores. So this is a quick overview of some of the jobs that are available right now. Okay, you would have heard of your peers, your seniors, your friends who are in various parts of the travel industry. Okay, this is specific to the travel agents. More of the same, for example, marketing executive. 10 years ago, a marketeer would be advertising in the newspapers, in magazines. And then about 5 years ago, it was known as digital marketing. But even digital marketing is obsolete now, because marketing should comprise of everything digital, isn't it? Everyone uses social media now. So, like what my previous speakers have said, some of the roles might sound the same, okay, but without innovation, okay, or rather with innovation, it's changed. It's changed with the times. The title is the same, but what you're doing, the platform you're using, the audience that you're talking to is different. So this slide just shows some very current career progression, okay, not just for the travel agency, hotel industry as well as MICE, okay. So after you graduate, what's next? Okay, you normally enter the business, any of these three funnels. You go in as a travel consultant, you work on the front desk, you meet customers at the front line. What's next? Maybe after 3 years, after 5 years, you progress onwards to a managerial position. You may have 2 or 3 people in your team, 4 or 5, it depends on business to business. And everyone aims towards what happens in the next 5, 7, 10 years, you know, to be the head of the department, director of sales, or to be a project director. So this is a very common and typical route for the travel industry right now. So I've just covered very briefly of what is the current state of play in the travel industry for the region and actually globally. And now we just focus a little bit more about the future. What is out there for us? What's out there for you when you enter into the workforce? So I think some of the presentations earlier have already set up the tone for this, and I won't spend too much time. But essentially, it's against the theme of how do we innovate? How do we humanize? If we are just going to take orders, okay, there is an app for it. There is a solution for it. If we're just going to book a ticket for someone, book a hotel for someone, there's 1,000 apps that can replace us. But if we aim to provide a certain difference, okay, we can understand what the customer needs and we provide that humanized touch, okay, that's where we stay relevant, okay? And like what Andy has mentioned earlier, if we can harness technology to help us, one easy example is obviously in the current setting, okay, if we deal with customers, we tend to focus on email. But as Miss Eileen has shown in the slides, it's chat, it's Viber here in Philippines, WhatsApp in the rest of Asia. You know, these are some technology tools that we can use to communicate with our customers. And for Contiki, this is very relevant. I always tell my boss, don't forget about the phones ringing, forget about people walking into the store. Okay, we have a shop front, and that's where we see our visitors. My colleagues would be chatting with them, and it seems very quiet in the office, but that's because they're chatting with the customers. They're not speaking with the customers. They're not pulling a chair for the customer. It's all on the platform, okay? And they take it on the, not just on the website chat, but they also take it onto the phone chat as well. That's what Contiki customers want, 18 to 35. And sharing with you an example that's just a couple of months old, sometimes we lose customers as well because we don't respond fast enough, and because the customer doesn't want to book anywhere else except on chat, we lost the customer. Okay, so that happens. And our customers are 18 to 35 with an average age of about 26 to 27. Okay, they're busy. Excuse this slide, it's heavily skewed towards Singapore, that's where we come from, that's where I come from, so I've just shown a few examples. So in the pursuit of digitalization, some of these travel partners have gone towards that way with apps, with booking engines. So Chan Brothers is one of the leading travel agencies in Singapore. It's also got its own online booking tool now. STA Travel, which is a student-based travel agency, they also deal with the millennial audience. They've got a mobile app. And another big travel agency in Singapore, Dynasty, have also invested hugely onto mobile booking platforms. Another part that I would like to focus on is with startups. So I think Andy had mentioned a little bit about startups earlier. And I think the origins of startups is always, again, asking why, challenging the norm. Okay, they might have been frustrated. Someone like the founders of Netflix, you know, try to sell the business for 5 million, and now they see their potential buyer fail before their eyes. And startups originate from that. Okay, so there are more travel startups that are taking off globally, and I think Amadeus had already shown some examples. And the travel industry can be a little bit frustrating at times. Okay. You've got a lot of legacy rules, you've got a lot of legacy regulations, and the startup space is ripe for a ton of opportunities, okay? As long as there is someone who's willing to challenge and ask why, and identify opportunities within the space, they can succeed from there because they have technology. Technology levels the playing field. And you don't need to have heaps of money to lead the way. You partner yourself, okay? Or rather, you partner with technology partners, and as long as you got a good business proposition, you can succeed. I mean, has anyone heard of Klook? KKD? Yeah, so I think if 5 years ago we asked this question, I think we would have a lot of blank faces. But now, 5 years on, Klook is here to stay. Support for startups is also there, as Andy had mentioned earlier. There is a growing demand of bigger organizations and corporations who knows that they can't do things themselves. It's all about collaboration. Okay, and there are always businesses who are on the lookout for startups with the next big idea. There are sandbox opportunities for the startups to join in, to plug in. And what's the next big idea may help organizations take off from there. Contiki, at Contiki HQ, we also do that. So like I mentioned earlier, chat. Okay, in Contiki, we work with a chat startup on how we can create that virtual shopfront. We work with a few other technology partners on the back end as well, just to keep things relevant for ourselves in addressing the customer's needs. And in terms of the potential in joining a startup, which essentially is a question you can ask when you enter the workforce. I think right now there is also that two questions, because startups are quite numerous. You could be thinking of joining, I suppose, a traditional company or a startup. And I think the green slide or the green square just is some questions you can consider before you want to, you can consider about if you want to join a startup. Well, at a startup, obviously, the DNA of the business is about taking risks. Okay, it's very flat. Okay, it might be a very small team, and essentially, you are exposed to much more learnings, all right? You're not just pigeonholed into one department, into one role, okay? And of course, if you are starting from ground zero, you could be employee number 2 or number 3, you're part of something that could be big. But I think like what Andy mentioned in his slides before, it's, especially the last slide that he had mentioned, which I think you can get after this topic. These are some very important. Those were some very important questions that you should consider as you take the next step into joining the workforce. Now, these are some roles that I suppose, even for myself, who has spent about 13 years in the travel industry, were non-existent 5-8 years ago, and that's in the red square. Like I mentioned earlier, a marketeer. Okay, marketing roles have been around forever, but what platforms and what channels has changed? All right, so in the past it was with the traditional marketing, so publications, newspapers, offline, print. But now I would say it's heavily skewed towards the online, and in that space of marketing, there is also content, because like I asked earlier, I think all of us consume our media online. It could be on Instagram, that's where we get our news. It could be on YouTube, and that's where we do our search. What we found at Contiki is that, in fact, YouTube has replaced search for the 18 to 35 space. So we don't even use Google anymore for questions. We go straight to YouTube, and we use YouTube as a search tool, because I think the 18 to 35 audience is so used to consuming media on videos. And how many of us, watch videos without any sound? We tend to just read the subtitles, right? I think that's quite a common phenomenon as we commute, and we tend to just read the subtitles as well. So all these trends are precursor to what some of the jobs are out there in tourism. What does that mean? UX, UI, so in terms of web design, in terms of web marketing, in terms of what kind of content is out there that captures the audience. these were not thought of before. When I was in marketing 10 years ago, it was just about making the advertisement prominent with the phone number big enough so the customer can see and call. But right now it's about how can I keep my video captivating in 10 seconds or less. And again, that goes into the importance of being resourceful. If we just remain being an order taker or just keeping to that pigeonhole, we're never gonna succeed. All right, and gone are the days where being good at your job is just sufficient. You always have to ask why. How do you challenge yourself? And I think that's testament to how some of these startups are so successful. They never stop in one place. And I relate that to Andy's slide earlier, where the longevity of the company is now 18 years or less. So even if a company has been around for 5 years and successful, I think the next thing they do with their profits is to invest in research and development, because they know that there's always the next big thing that will come and it might just swallow them up whole. The travel industry will continue to grow with the technologies, and I think the statistics from Miss Eileen have already shown that. But I think as much as tourism is here to stay, the tourism industry is always on the lookout for new ideas and startups. So if you have an idea, don't keep it to yourself. Use it during your learnings here in school. Best time to do that is I spent some time in a startup, and one big thing I learned was always to fail fast. Okay, fail and learn from it, and then fail again, and then learn from it. And then I think that's what happens when you join a startup. You will learn what fail fast is. Most important thing is to pick yourself up. So here's a video which I will play soon, and it's a video about Contiki, what we do. But I think I wanted to just end off with a video because it shows you what some of my marketing team does now. We tell stories. Okay. Yes, we run tours for 18 to 35, but how do we communicate that to someone like yourself? Okay, and that's through videos. All right, and so we have a marketing team that will collate all kinds of video content, put it into a short 2-3 minute video. Splice it up even shorter when we run advertisements into 10 seconds. And this is all done by my marketing team. So I just wanted to share that video with you.
You've seen the pictures, heard the stories, and tried to imagine the exotic tastes, colors, and sounds. But travel is a feeling that's difficult to describe unless you've experienced it yourself.
It's like you're in a dream. You're like just sitting in this chair and there's nothing underneath you, and as far as you're concerned, there's nothing above you.
When I look back on pictures now, it doesn't look real in pictures.
It is difficult to put into words. Am I having a water fight with a baby elephant right now? It's just one of those, is this actually happening moments.
Everywhere you look is almost too pretty. Your eyes almost don't know what to do with themselves. When I was going to sleep, I heard hyenas just howling in the distance. And then in the morning, we heard lions. They were just chilling there on the grass, and there were zebras standing behind them. It's so huge. It's very kind of humbling almost, like the raw kind of power of nature when you're this tiny little person in front of it all.
I don't know, it's just something about being there that you couldn't capture it in a movie.
The feeling of overcoming something, that's the kind of thing that lasts on.
It's like 5 different holidays in one holiday, or like 50 different countries in one country.
There was something so magical about the sunset. It felt like a bit of a secret, and then the water just shoots like whoosh.
It's kind of all those things that you never really get to see. You can only feel or experience if you're there.
Thank you. So I forgot, I actually have 2 more slides, and it's just in that theme of the video about being there. So this was just a photo that was taken just a few months ago, all right, some familiar faces. And this particular group of travelers from Manila were at the office of Raja, travel and talking about their upcoming trip, which in the early May was happening in about 7 days' time. So like the video said, it's just about being there, experiencing it. And just 2 weeks later, there was the group. I was part of the group. We were in Chiang Mai. This was some sleepy faces after a 10-hour overnight train. But everyone was really excited about the day ahead because the group, we were going ahead to spend 4 hours with elephants at an elephant sanctuary in Chiang Mai. So this is how I would end the presentation. It's about what you want to do next, and I suppose where will you go next is a question that I just leave it out here. I have no answer for you, but I hope that the presentation gives you some ideas on what are the future jobs in the travel industry. Thank you very much.